Hi everyone, I'm Bubbles from Susan's family. Today, I'll teach you the method for knitting the Christmas apple sweater. This sweater is divided into the front body, back body, sleeves, collar and decorations. Because everyone's crochet tension is different, the size of the knitted pieces won't be identical. Before starting the actual knitting, you need to make a gauge sample to measure your crochet tension. The method for making the gauge sample is explained in a separate video. Please refer to the chart for specific instructions. After measuring, adjust according to the video instructions. Before proceeding with the main knitting, note, don't cut the yarn after finishing the gauge sample, as the yarn can be reused. Everyone should unravel the gauge sample after measuring and adjusting. Start by knitting the front piece, which is divided into the hem, body and shoulder neck section. The hem uses an alternating knit and purl stitch method for casting on. Work back and forth to create this 2x2 ribbing. Now let's take a look at the chart. Here I'm using a random size chart as an example, but the final chart should match your actual project. Each square in the chart represents one stitch. Each square corresponds to one loop when knitting. Different colored squares represent different color yarns. Here, blank squares indicate knit stitches. A horizontal line represents a purl stitch. Blank areas have no stitches, meaning no knitting is needed. When counting stitches for each row, simply count the number of squares. Then match it to the number of loops on your needle. Short rows are counted separately for row numbers. Arrows indicate the knitting direction. The right side is always read from right to left on the chart. The wrong side is read from left to right on the chart. Pay attention when working on the wrong side. You need to work the opposite stitch pattern compared to the chart. Start with casting on. Use the method of alternating knit and purl stitches for casting on. Remember to use the correct hook size for casting on. Then work back and forth in 2x2 ribbing. Everyone, learn the technique first. Then follow the chart to complete it. For specific knitting techniques, please watch the video. First work one purl stitch. Alternate with one knit stitch for casting on. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Leave the yarn tail a bit longer. This makes it convenient to weave in the ends later. Pick up the circular needle of the corresponding size with your left hand. A circular needle is this type of double-pointed knitting needle. You can simply use one end of the needle for knitting. Insert into the loop. Gently tighten. This is the first stitch. This stitch is worked as a purl. Hold the other end of the needle in your right hand with a pencil grip. Take the end of the yarn around your little finger. Gently pinch the yarn with your ring finger and middle finger. Place this yarn between your index finger and middle finger. This is the proper posture for knitting. Next, place the right needle above the yarn. Insert downwards into the loop on the left needle. Use your right index finger to bring the yarn over. Pick up the yarn. Place it onto the left needle. Don't pull the yarn too tight, otherwise it will be hard to pick up stitches later. This is the second stitch. This stitch is worked as a knit. You can see the yarn is underneath. Begin purl stitch cast on. Place the right needle below the yarn. Pass upwards through between these two loops. Note this is the middle position of the loops. Do not pass through the loops. Yarn over. Pick up the yarn. Place it onto the left needle. This is the third stitch. This stitch is worked as a purl. You can see the yarn is above. Next, begin knit stitch cast on. Place the right needle above the yarn. Insert the needle. Yarn over. Pick up. This is the fourth stitch. Work one more purl stitch cast on. Place the right needle below the yarn. Insert the needle. Yarn over. Pick up. This is the fifth stitch. Cast on follows 1 purl stitch, 1 knit stitch, 1 knit stitch, alternating downward. When the yarn tail is above, work knit stitch cast on. When the yarn tail is below, work purl stitch cast on. Knit downward to the required number of stitches. After completing the required number of stitches, the cast on is done. My swatch has fewer stitches here. When the actual number of stitches is larger, remember to check the stitch count. Next, work row 1. The first stitch in the pattern chart is a knit symbol, corresponding to knitting a knit stitch. The yarn is below the needle. Insert the right needle downward from above, into the first loop on the left needle. Pay attention to inserting into the loop, not between the loops. Then bring the yarn with your right hand. Yarn over. Pick up. Release the loop on the left needle. That's how 1 knit stitch is completed. The finished texture below is a braid-like texture. This is the texture of the knit stitch. Continue downward. The second stitch is still a knit symbol, corresponding to 1 knit stitch. At this point, the loop is at the back. It's a purl stitch loop. Meanwhile, there's yarn across the top of the working loop. The next stitch loop is at the front. This is a knit stitch loop. Then we need to swap the position with the next stitch. Pinch the bottom of the 2 loops on the left needle with your right hand. Then release these 2 loops from the left needle. First, insert the loop for the purl stitch from behind back onto the left needle. Now the 2 loops have swapped positions. Here the knit stitch loop is at the front. After completing, knit 1 stitch. Insert, yarn over and draw through. Release the loop. Complete the knit stitch. The next 2 stitches are purl symbols, corresponding to knit 2 purl stitches. Here perfectly 2 consecutive purl stitch loops. Just knit them directly. Wrap the yarn over the needle. Insert the right needle from bottom up into the loop on the left needle. Yarn over. Draw through. Release the loop on the left needle. Complete 1 purl stitch. This texture has a horizontal strand above the loop. This is the purl texture. Continue. Keep the yarn over the needle. Insert into the loop. Yarn over and draw through. Release the loop. Completed another purl stitch. Next 2 stitches are knit symbols. Knit 1 stitch normally. Pay attention when switching from purl to knit. Bring the yarn to the front, corresponding to the pattern. After completing, swap the positions of the next 2 loops. The knit loop goes in front. You can use a straight needle to assist with the swap. First move both loops to the right needle. Then, with the left needle behind, pick up the first loop. Release the loop. Pick up the second loop with the right needle. Move it to the left needle. The loops are now swapped. Then knit 1 stitch, followed by 2 purl stitches. Continue with 2 knit stitches afterward. Alternate between 2 knit and 2 purl stitches. During the crocheting process, pay attention to swapping loop positions. Ensure you knit on the knit loop. And purl on the purl loop. Repeat this process to complete the remaining stitches. After finishing the last stitch, gently tighten the starting tail. Now the first row is done. This row is the right side of the piece. The starting tail is on the left side. Next, work row 2. We will work this row on the wrong side. You need to crochet the opposite stitch pattern as shown in the chart. First, turn the work. The chart shows knit symbols for the first 2 stitches. Work purl stitches instead. So purl 2 stitches. The next 2 stitches show purl symbols. Work knit stitches instead. Correspondingly, knit those stitches. Moving forward, besides following the chart, you can also refer to the texture for guidance. When you see purl texture, correspondingly, work purl stitches. When you see knit texture, correspondingly work knit stitches. This row continues to alternate 2 purl stitches and 2 knit stitches. Finish this row. Complete the last stitch. Row 2 is done. For the remaining rows, work this 2x2 ribbing pattern. Every row alternates 2 knit stitches and 2 purl stitches. The order of knit and purl stitches follows the chart or texture. Pay attention, odd-numbered rows are worked on the right side. Simply work the stitch pattern shown in the chart. Even-numbered rows are worked on the wrong side. You need to work the opposite stitch pattern of the chart. This is the method for 2x2 ribbing. Here I'll use a swatch to explain how to count rows. Start counting from the bottom chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. The swatch has a total of 4 rows. This is how to count rows. That concludes the hem section. Next, let's learn about the body. Continue working back and forth from the hem. And work the pattern in the middle position. The new stitch technique used is right side increase. Now, let's show, work row 1. This row is worked on the right side. Here I'll continue to demonstrate with a swatch. Row count and stitch count are not for reference. For row 1, switch to the corresponding hook size circular needle. First work 1 knit stitch. Then work 1 right side increase. Pick up the right strand below the loop on the left needle. Work 1 knit stitch. This is the increased stitch. Then continue to insert into the loop of this stitch. Work 1 knit stitch. This completes the right side increase. 2 stitches are worked into this braid. Then follow the chart and work all knit stitches. Row 1 is done. Continue to work row 2. Work the opposite stitch technique. Work all purl stitches. Row 2 is done. Continue working the rows before the body pattern. Note, work the opposite stitch technique on the wrong side. Everyone complete it. Next, learn the method for working the pattern. The colors in the chart grid represent the corresponding yarn colors. Here, 2 techniques will be used, intarsia and fair isle. Intarsia carries the yarn vertically. Fair isle carries the yarn horizontally. First, let's learn the pattern working method. After learning, then according to the actual situation, follow the chart to work the pattern. Below, I'll take any size as an example. First, I'll briefly explain the working sequence. Row 1 of the pattern is worked on the right side. When you reach the corresponding position, join the yarn in the corresponding color for the pattern. Here it's called color 1. The original yarn is called the main color yarn. Note that joining yarn on both sides is done on the wrong side. After finishing color 1, continue working with the main color yarn. Row 2 of the pattern is worked on the wrong side. First work with the main color yarn to the position of color 2. Switch to color 2 for working. Here, every time you switch colors, you need to cross the 2 yarns. That is, ensuring after completing 1 stitch, pause the working yarn by tucking it under. After finishing color 2, continue working with the main color yarn, because the next row's color 2 is farther away. When working, you need to bring the color 2 yarn forward to the starting position of color 2 in the next row. You can use the stranded color work technique. While working, tuck the yarn every 3 stitches. After finishing row 3 of the pattern with the main color yarn, continue working with color 2. The distance to the next main color is quite far here. When working with color 2, you don't need to carry the main color yarn. Later, join a new main color yarn to continue working. Here you can take another yarn tail from the same skein, or take a new skein of yarn. Continue joining yarn to work. Pattern row 4. After finishing with the main color yarn, switch to color 2 for working. Simply pull the yarn from the previous row to work. This is the stranded color work technique. When working the pattern later, new yarn will be added, which is color 2. When the distance is far, you can join new color 2 to continue working. You can also use stranded color work and ferrule techniques. When working later, each time you change colors, you need to cross the 2 yarns. Make sure the yarn that's paused gets tucked under after completing the knit stitch. This way, the different colors stay connected. As you can see, horizontal and vertical yarn carrying are used together. It depends on the pattern chart and your personal preference. After finishing the area for each color, leave a 10 cm yarn tail and cut the yarn. Tuck the yarn tails on the wrong side. First refer to the video demonstration below about intarsia and ferrule knitting. Once you've learned the method, follow the chart, complete the body section pattern. Continue with stocking stitch afterward. Watch the demonstration, flat knitting ferrule. Here I'll demonstrate using a swatch. Start by knitting a row on the right side. Read the chart from right to left. You'll need 2 colors for this part. The different colored squares on the chart correspond to different colored yarns. Refer to the chart and use the corresponding colors. First join the yarn. We'll call the original yarn color 1. The new yarn is color 2. Tie a knot with both strands. Then pull the knot to the base. For any future yarn joining situations, just follow this demonstration. Then refer to the chart and use the corresponding color yarn to crochet. Here I'll first demonstrate changing colors on every stitch. First I'll knit 1 stitch with color 1. Then hold 2 strands with one hand. Wrapping the yarn with the pinky and ring finger respectively. Now each finger holds 1 strand. Continue with color 2 for the next stitch. Pick up the strand from below color 1. After switching colors and completing 1 stitch, you can see a carried strand behind. Gently stretch the fabric to level the carried strand with the fabric. Don't pull the carried strand too tight to prevent the fabric from puckering. Continue knitting 1 stitch with color 1. Here, pay attention to pick up color 1 from above. Pay attention to gently stretch the fabric. Once completed, continue picking up color 2 from below for 1 stitch. Note: When picking up strands, ensure the two strands don't twist. After each color change and completing one stitch, gently stretch the fabric slightly. Ensure the fabric stays flat, meaning don't pull this carried strand too tight. Continue knitting. Carry color 1 from above. Carry color 2 from below. If it's inconvenient to use only the index finger, you can use the middle finger to pick up strands when working with color 2. After completing, check to see that color 1's carried strands are all above, and color 2's carried strands are all below. This creates a neat texture without tangled yarn. In practice, you can also choose not to separate above and below, as long as the right side looks neat. This is the case when switching colors every stitch. Next, when the same color is worked for fewer than 4 stitches in a row, you can follow this demonstration to knit. Pay attention to the stitch count for each color. Refer to the pattern. Don't make mistakes. If it exceeds 4 stitches, you need to carry the other yarn. Here I'll demonstrate the method for carrying yarn when working 5 consecutive stitches. First switch to color 1 and knit 3 stitches. Then use your index finger to pick up the other yarn and pull it through from underneath. Continue with this yarn for 1 knit stitch. The other yarn has now been carried once. The carried yarn should be level with the fabric piece to keep the work flat. Continue with 1 more stitch. That's how you complete 5 consecutive stitches. This is the yarn carrying method. After each time you carry the yarn, you should gently stretch the fabric. When carrying yarn, you always carry it after knitting 3 stitches. I'll demonstrate carrying yarn for 7 consecutive stitches again. Pay attention that when picking up strands, you need to ensure the two yarns don't twist together. Here, pick up strands from below, and knit 3 stitches. Then from underneath the other yarn, pick up this strand. Knit 3 more stitches. Remember to gently stretch the fabric after each yarn carry. Because of the yarn carrying, the two yarns will twist together. During later knitting, be mindful to keep them separated. Continue and carry yarn for 1 more stitch. This completes the continuous 7 stitches. If more consecutive stitches are needed later, carry the yarn multiple times. Use the same method as before. As you can see, here we carried the yarn twice. Next, follow this demonstration. Continue knitting until the second to last stitch of the row. After completing the second to last stitch, when knitting the last stitch, regardless of how many stitches apart, carry color 2 once. This completes the explanation for the right side row. Continue with the wrong side row. When working on the wrong side, always read the chart from left to right, and the chart represents the right side texture. On the wrong side, we should work a wrong side definition of the symbols. Therefore, this row should all be made in purl stitches. Hook the yarn with your right hand. Place the needle under both strands. Work 1 purl stitch with the corresponding yarn. Pay attention to gently stretch the fabric, ensuring you don't pull the fabric too tight vertically. Then continue picking up the corresponding yarn to work purl stitches normally. When picking up strands to knit, make sure the two strands don't twist together. When working on the wrong side, after switching colors and completing 1 stitch, always gently stretch the fabric in time, ensuring the fabric stays flat. If the number of consecutive stitches doesn't exceed 4, switch colors using this method. If it exceeds 4 stitches, you still need to carry the yarn. The method is the same as when working on the right side. Here, I'll demonstrate the yarn carrying method for 7 consecutive stitches. Work 3 stitches first. Carry the yarn once, then work 3 stitches. Carry the yarn again and work 1 stitch. This completes 7 consecutive stitches. Having carried the yarn twice. Next, refer to this demonstration. Follow the chart. Continue until the second to last stitch of the row. Keep the yarn carrying layers consistent with the fabric below. One yarn always on top, the other always underneath. This creates a more attractive texture. When you reach the corresponding position, for the last stitch, you can also carry the other yarn. This completes the wrong side row. This is the technique for stranded colorwork knitting. First, use the original main color yarn. Knit normally. Continue until 1 stitch before the colorwork area. I have fewer stitches here. Just demonstrating the method. The stitch count and colors are for reference only. After finishing knitting, I'll explain how to join the yarn, whether on the right side or wrong side. The method for joining the yarn is the same. I'm joining from the wrong side here. Take the new yarn and tie a knot with the original yarn. Pull it to the base. This is how you join the yarn. If joining on the right side, also finish the stitch before changing colors. Then tie a knot between the new yarn and original yarn, and pull it to the base. We're using the stranded colorwork method here, so this main color yarn stays in place. Directly switch to the stranded color for knitting, which I'll refer to as color 1 later. After finishing knitting, here we need to continue with the main color yarn. Then leave color 1 in place. Use this yarn to finish this row. And continue knitting the stitch count at the beginning of the next row. After finishing the starting color, the next stitch will switch back to this yarn. Pause knitting with the original yarn. Pay attention to placing the paused yarn above. And the yarn to be knitted below. Meaning crossing the 2 yarns. Then start knitting the corresponding stitch count. After knitting 1 stitch, check the wrong side. The paused yarn is pressed underneath. This makes the textures of the 2 colors connect tightly without being loose, and maintains a neat appearance. The yarn pulled over here shouldn't be too tight. Keep the tension even. Continue knitting downward. Note: every time you switch colors, whether on the right side or wrong side, cross the 2 yarns once. This is the technique for color work without weaving in the yarn. Up to this point, the pattern explanation concludes, and the body section is complete. Next, knit the shoulder parts. Continue knitting from the body. Here, divide and knit the left and right shoulder parts separately. Note that the left and right here refer to when the garment is worn. Let me briefly explain the knitting sequence. First, continue knitting the left shoulder part back and forth with the previous yarn. Decrease stitches at the neckline side. Work even on the edge first. Then work short rows for the sloping shoulder. Finally, put the stitches on hold. Next, join yarn at the neck opening. Then knit the right shoulder part back and forth. Similarly, decrease stitches at the neckline side. Work even on the edge first. Finish with short rows. Finally, put the stitches on hold as well. For specific short row techniques, neckline decreases, and shoulder part holding methods, please refer to the demonstration video below. You can learn the technique first, then refer to the chart. Let's learn a common neckline decrease technique, which is decreasing by knitting purl stitches to create the required curve. Assuming this is the front body neckline. So, this side is the left shoulder. This side is the right shoulder. Sometimes, short rows are needed on the shoulders. There are no short rows here. We'll only explain the neckline decrease. Let's start with the left shoulder. This chart has fewer stitches, mainly explaining the method. First, knit row 1 of the neckline, which means knitting 13 knit stitches first. If there are more stitches, you can use stitch markers first to separate these stitches before knitting. I've already finished row 1. Pause knitting the remaining loops. Then knit row 2. Row 2 is worked on the wrong side. You can see, this row starts with decreasing 3 stitches in a row. If there are many consecutive decreases, we can first separate them with stitch markers. Begin decreasing. You can start with 1 slip stitch. Then knit 1 purl stitch. Next, lift the previous stitch over the next stitch. This decreases 1 stitch. Continue with 1 purl stitch. Then decrease 1 more stitch. Unless otherwise specified, on the wrong side, you purl while decreasing. There's 1 stitch left to the right of the stitch marker, which is the loop of the 3rd stitch. We need to decrease this stitch. Therefore, knit 1 more stitch and bind off. The very next stitch is the stitch adjacent to the last decrease symbol. Here we simply purl the stitch. Note: since stitch techniques may vary for different patterns, refer to the chart for this stitch. After finishing, decrease the 3rd stitch. So, the 3 stitches on the chart have been decreased. Continue to follow the chart. Note: the next stitch should be worked from the 2nd stitch next to the decrease symbol. Start working from the 2nd stitch next to the decrease symbol. Before working, gently tighten this loop to prevent noticeable holes. There are no special patterns here. We'll work all purl stitches. Now, the 2nd row is finished. Proceed to work the 3rd row. Refer to the pattern. Simply work all knit stitches. I've already completed it. Continue to work the 4th row. Here we only need to decrease 2 stitches at the beginning. The method is identical to the 1st row. Start with 1 slip stitch. Then work 1 purl stitch. Decrease 1 stitch. Continue with 1 purl stitch. Decrease 1 stitch. Gently tighten the loops. Then work all purl stitches, and complete the 5th row as well. Now, I've already finished the 5th row. Continue working on the 6th row. Decrease 1 stitch at the beginning of this row. Use the same method as decreasing the first stitch in row 1. Once completed, work all purl stitches. For the remaining 7th and 9th rows, work all knit stitches. The 8th row is identical to the 6th row. Decrease 1 stitch at the beginning. The 10th row doesn't require decreasing stitches. Work normal purl stitches. Now, I've completed these 10 rows. There should be 6 stitches remaining at the end. Short rows with stitches left on the right side. As you can see, here we need to work 6 short rows. The first row is worked on the wrong side. Leave 5 stitches unworked at the ending. I've already finished it. The second row is worked on the right side. First make a yarn over on the right needle like this. Then work 1 slip stitch. Next, knit 1 by 1 accordingly. Finish this row. Once done, continue to work row 3. At the ending of this row, accept the first 5 stitches. Leave 4 more stitches unworked. Note: this yarn over is not included. Once completed, continue to work row 4. The method is identical to row 2. First make 1 yarn over like this. Then work 1 slip stitch. Next follow the chart to finish this row. For the following row 5, leave 4 more stitches at the ending. Similarly, the yarn over is not counted. Row 6 is worked the same way as row 2. I'll continue to finish these 2 rows. Now, I've completed the short rows. Finally need to work 1 more row. To eliminate row difference, short for row elimination. First work purl stitches corresponding to each stitch. Work until the stitch before the yarn over. Once completed, swap the yarn over with the stitch on the left side first. Then knit them together as one purl stitch. Every time you reach the yarn over position afterward, always swap the yarn over with the stitch on the left side first. Then combine, and work as one purl stitch. Continue to finish this row. Now, row elimination is done. Take a look. This is the right side effect. This is the wrong side effect. Here it's marked as resting stitches, which means these loops need to be temporarily secured. We can use scrap yarn to temporarily secure them. If there are no special requirements for the yarn tails, just leave about 15 centimeters and trim them off. Pay attention to prevent the loops from slipping. The left shoulder is done. Next, knit the right shoulder. Before knitting, we need to first decrease 9 stitches in the middle. You can use stitch markers to separate them. Pick up the new yarn. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Slightly tighten the loop. Knit 2 knit stitches first. Then decrease 1 stitch. And knit 1 more knit stitch. Decrease 1 stitch. Unless otherwise specified, on the right side, bind off while knitting the both sides together. Continue decreasing the remaining stitches. Also note, when finishing the last loop, the stitch you're working on is the first stitch to the left of this bind off symbol. Refer to the pattern for the corresponding stitch technique. Here we continue knitting knit stitches and bind off. Once completed, start from the second stitch to finish this row. Then, on the wrong side, purl the entire second row. Now I've finished the second row. Continue to work row 3. Decrease 3 stitches consecutively at the beginning. You can first knit 1 slip stitch and 1 knit stitch. Decrease 1 stitch. Continue to bind off with knit stitches. Now, 3 stitches have been decreased. Continue to finish row 3 and complete row 4. Now I've finished row 4. Decrease 2 stitches at the beginning of row 5. Use the same decrease method as the first 2 stitches of row 3. For subsequent rows 7 and 9, decrease 1 stitch at the beginning. Use the same decrease method as the first stitch of row 3. I'll continue to finish the remaining part of the right shoulder. Now I've completed the right shoulder. There should be 6 stitches left here, and temporarily secure these 6 stitches. That's it. This concludes the neckline decrease technique. Short rows with stitches held on the left side. As you can see, 6 rows of short rows are needed here. Row 1 is worked on the right side. Leave 5 stitches unworked at the ending. I've finished knitting. Row 2 is worked on the wrong side. First make a wrap on the right needle like this. Don't make the wrap too loose. Then work 1 slip stitch. Next, work purl stitches into each stitch in sequence. Finish this row. Once done, continue to work row 3. At the ending of this row except for the first 5 stitches. Leave another 4 stitches unworked. Note: this wrap doesn't count. Once completed, continue to work row 4. Work in the same way as row 2. First make a wrap like this. Then work 1 slip stitch. Then follow the chart to complete the row normally. For the following row 5, leave another 4 stitches unworked at the ending. Same. The wrap doesn't count. Row 6 is worked in the same way as row 2. I'll continue to finish these 2 rows. Now, I've completed the short rows. Finally, work 1 more row to eliminate the row difference, abbreviated as row elimination. First knit 1 by 1 accordingly. Knit until the stitch before the wrap. Once done, knit the wrap together with the left side stitch as 1 knit stitch. Every time you reach the wrap position afterward. Always knit the wrap and the left side stitch together as 1 knit stitch. Continue to finish the row. Now, the row elimination is complete. Take a look. This is the right side effect. This is the wrong side effect. Sometimes to make the row counts match on both sides, you need to work 1 more row. Just follow the pattern chart accordingly. Up to this point, the front body knitting is explained. Next, learn the back body. It's divided into the hem and the body. Before short rows for the hem and body. Before short rows for the hem and body. The technique is similar to the corresponding position on the front body. No pattern needs to be worked. Refer to the chart and finish the part before short rows for the body. Next, work the short rows section. Start short rows at the ending on the left side first. On the next row, start short rows from the right side. Work up to the row before binding off for the neck opening. Divide into left and right shoulder collars. Work the right shoulder first. Decrease stitches on the neckline side. Continue short rows at the edge. Finally, join and bind off at the corresponding position with the front body. Then attach yarn and bind off at the neck opening. Work back and forth on the left shoulder collar. Similarly, decrease stitches on the neckline side. Continue working short rows at the edge. Finally, join and bind off at the corresponding shoulder position with the front body. The method of short rows and neckline decreases here is similar to the front body. Please refer to the previous demonstration. Follow the chart to complete it. Now demonstrate the method of joining and binding off. After learning the technique, connect the corresponding shoulder positions. The first method is stitch-to-stitch joining. This is commonly used when both pieces are in loop state. It's a common joining method. Join the fabric pieces together through binding off. It's commonly used to join the shoulders of the front and back bodies. Both fabric pieces are in loop state. We'll take the stockinette side as the right side. Joining and binding off is usually done on the wrong side of the piece, meaning the two pieces should be placed with right sides together. Usually one of the pieces doesn't cut the yarn. This yarn can be on either piece. Place the side with yarn tails on the right. Generally, when joining and binding off, it's usually done by knitting and binding off at the same time, meaning you draw through loops from both fabric pieces simultaneously. Knit stitches while binding off with a slip stitch. The stitch counts of both pieces are usually identical. Just work evenly and bind off corresponding stitches. If one piece has more stitches, you'll need to decrease while binding off on the side with more stitches. Assuming this piece has more stitches, you can insert through 2 loops at once. Then continue inserting through 1 loop afterward. Knit stitches while binding off. If the back piece has more stitches, insert through 2 loops at the back simultaneously. Knit stitches while binding off. Mine have identical stitch counts. Continue binding them off completely. Tie a knot with the yarn tail, and tuck it in. This is the effect after joining and binding off. Up to this point, the back body knitting is finished. Now let's learn about the sleeves. They're divided into the cuff edge and the sleeve body. The cuff edge uses the method of alternating knit and purl stitches for casting on. Work back and forth in 2x2 ribbing. The technique is similar to the hem. Complete this part. Next, knit the sleeve body. You'll need to increase stitches during the process. The new stitch technique used is the left increase. Row 1 will include right increases at both knit and purl positions. For the remaining positions, increase stitches at the corresponding knit stitch positions. All increases are done at the beginning and ending of the corresponding positions. For the specific techniques of right and left increases, please refer to the demonstration video below. After learning the method, follow the pattern chart to complete the sleeve body section. If there's a horizontal bar below the loop, pick up the right side of the horizontal bar and knit. Then knit into this loop as well. I'll demonstrate it once more. First, pick up the right side of the horizontal bar and knit 1 stitch. Then pick up this loop and knit. That's the method for single crochet increase on the right side. For single crochet increase on the left side, usually there's a chain below the loop. First, pick up this loop and knit 1 stitch. Then find the second chain below the loop. Insert the left needle from left to right under the left strand of this chain. Then knit 1 stitch. This stitch on the left side is the increased stitch. That's how you complete the single crochet increase on the left side. After finishing the sleeve body, perform a bind off. For the specific bind off technique, you can refer to the demonstration video below. Bind off while knitting the both sides together. Generally, after completing the stockinette stitch, you can use this method on the right side. When binding off in this situation, first knit 2 stitches. Then pick up the previous stitch with the left needle. Cover the next stitch. That completes 1 bind off stitch. Continue with 1 knit stitch. Then pick up the previous stitch with the left needle. Cover the next stitch. That completes another bind off stitch. I'll continue binding them off. Each time, knit a stitch while binding off. Now only 1 loop remains. Stretch the loop. Leave a yarn tail and fasten off. The length of the yarn tail depends on the specific fabric. Usually, leaving about 10 centimeters is sufficient. Thread the yarn tail through the loop. Pull tight. This is the method of binding off while knitting the both sides together. Regardless of which bind-off method you use, the technique for securing the end of the yarn can refer to this demonstration, and, once completed, if it's not a specific long yarn tail reserved for sewing. Such short tails can be woven in on the wrong side following the fabric texture. Weave in. Trying not to affect the right side texture. When weaving in the ends, you can completely weave in the entire yarn tail. After the sleeve body is done, next sew the sleeve body and sleeve cuff edges together. Use the row-to-row sewing method. After sewing, then use the stitch-to-row sewing method. Sew the sleeve bind-off edge to the corresponding position on the front and back bodies. Before sewing, first find the side to sew, fold it in half and lay flat. Position the sewing side at the underarm. Then start sewing. If you have stitch markers, you can temporarily secure them with stitch markers before sewing. If not, you can use safety pins or paper clips as substitutes. After the sleeves are sewn, don't forget to sew the remaining side seams of the front and back bodies. Also use the row-to-row sewing method. Now let's learn the sewing method. Next, learn row-to-row joining. We usually use the seamless sewing technique. When sewing, pick up the horizontal strands along the edges. Let's first get familiar with the fabric piece. First, locate the first stitch at the edge. The first stitch at the edge usually has 4 situations. The first is a slip stitch, which means picking up the stitch along the texture without knitting it, forming a large braid. The second is also a slip stitch, but when working the slip stitch, it's opposite to the texture underneath, forming a knot like this. The third is knitting every row. Usually knit stitch on the right side, purl stitch on the wrong side, forming a small braid like this. The fourth is also knitting every row. Usually knit stitch on both right side and wrong side, forming a ribbed stitch. The second stitch is on the left side of the first stitch. For example, this fabric piece. From this side, the second stitch shows knit texture. From the other side, the second stitch shows purl texture. Whether the second stitch is knit texture or purl texture, you can notice all loops are facing forward. Loops like this with backward direction have horizontal bars underneath. Is the horizontal strand between 2 stitches? It's the same on this side. This is the backward loop. This one is the horizontal strand between two stitches. The edge worked in garter stitch is the same. This is the second stitch. This column is the second stitch. Forward loop. Between these two stitches. Backward loop. This strand of yarn is the horizontal strand between two stitches? The edge uses slip stitches. Similarly, between these two stitches, there are horizontal strands. No matter which type, one strand roughly corresponds to one row. Before sewing, you can first weave in the yarn tails on the wrong side for a few stitches, and tie a knot to secure them. I won't weave them in here. Seamless sewing alternates between these two fabric pieces each time. Picking up the horizontal strands along the edges for 2 stitches. Sew them together. Pick up 1-2 strands each time. Note, if the row counts of the 2 fabric pieces are the same, you can sew them together correspondingly, meaning you pick the same amount of strands each time. Always insert the needle where you last pulled out. To pick up the horizontal strands. Here, I pick up 1 strand each time. After sewing a few stitches, gently tighten it slightly. If the row counts of the 2 fabric pieces differ, but you want to sew them together evenly, you can work on the side with more rows. Pick up extra strands as needed. For example, generally pick 1 strand each time. On the side with more rows, at appropriate positions, pick up 2 strands. Here the row counts of the 2 fabric pieces are identical. I'll continue sewing until finished. This is the seamless sewing for rows method. If the stitches are bound off, sew the rows together. On the stitch side, pick up the reversed braid. On the row side, pick up the horizontal strand. And, if there are more rows than stitches, adjust as needed. At appropriate positions, pick up 2 horizontal strands at once. If you don't want the braid effect to show, just pull the yarn tight. That's all for the sleeves. Next, let's learn about the collar. Pick up stitches around the neckline on the front and back bodies, and work 2 by 2 ribbing in the round. Start by picking up stitches. Refer to the chart for the exact stitch count. You can also adjust as needed. Note that the stitch count should be a multiple of 4. After completing the stitch pickup, work the 2 by 2 ribbing. Once finished, bind off with single ribbing. Check out the video below first. Learn the method first, then follow the chart for knitting. Start by picking up the first round. I'll demonstrate using this swatch. We'll begin picking up stitches from the back body. As you can see, the back body is usually divided into 3 sections, 2 sides and the middle part. Before picking up, first, refer to the chart's requirements to allocate the total number of stitches for the back body across these 3 sections. Typically, the middle section uses evenly spaced stitches. The remaining stitches can be evenly distributed to both sides. For example, if I need to pick up 21 stitches total on this back body, I'll evenly pick up 11 stitches in the middle section. These 11 stitches usually match the number of stitches for the center decrease. Then, simply pick up 5 stitches evenly on each side. Pick up stitches all the way around, and knit every stitch. For this type of edge, pick up a few strands along the edge. Remember to space them evenly. Here, I'm using different, colored yarns to demonstrate, making it easier to watch. After picking up the sides, evenly pick up 11 stitches in the middle. Once completed, for this side, continue to evenly pick up 5 stitches. After finishing, you'll reach the front body position. Distribute the total number of stitches for the front body evenly across these 3 sections. For example, if I need to pick up a total of 39 stitches on this front body, I decreased 7 stitches in the middle here, so each side gets 16 stitches. Just distribute them roughly evenly. Once all stitches are picked up, check the stitch count, then distribute them evenly across 3 knitting needles. That concludes the demonstration of the first round of picking up stitches. Here I'll use a swatch to demonstrate the method of circular knitting with 4 needles. Arrange the 3 needles into a triangle shape. Then use the 4th needle to knit. First, complete knitting with the first needle. Tighten the yarn slightly at the beginning and ending position where the needles connect. After finishing the first needle, continue with the second needle. Similarly, give a gentle tug when completing the first needle. After finishing the second needle, proceed to knit the third needle. Knit up to the position before the yarn tail, indicating the end of this round. Then continue knitting in rounds using this method. The beginning and ending of each round can be identified using the starting yarn tail. Alternatively, you can place a marker on the first stitch. This is the method for knitting in the round with 4 straight needles. After completing the last round, perform a single rib bind off. The technique involves alternating the opposite stitch patterns of knit and purl, and then binding off. Since this is worked on a 2x2 ribbing, you'll need to switch the positions of the loops while knitting. Create alternating knit and purl stitches before binding off. First, knit 2 stitches opposite to the texture below. Here it's a knit stitch texture, so knit 2 purl stitches. Then lift the previous stitch over the next stitch. Pay attention not to bind off too tightly. This binds off 1 stitch. Next, the left side shows a purl stitch texture. Knit 1 stitch opposite to the texture below, which means knit 1 knit stitch. Before knitting, pinch the bottom of the right side loop with your left hand. Take the needle out. Place it above the yarn and back through the loop. Then knit a knit stitch. Lift the previous stitch over the next stitch. This binds off another stitch. Next, the left side still shows a purl stitch texture. First, swap the positions of the 2 loops on the left. Move these 2 loops onto the right needle. Then insert the left needle from behind to pick up the first loop. Release the loop. Pick up the second loop with the right needle. Move them back to the left needle. Now the 2 loops have swapped positions. The knit stitch loop is in front here. Knit 1 purl stitch here. Before knitting, take the needle out. Place it below the yarn and back through the loop. After completing, knit 1 purl stitch. Bind off 1 stitch. Next, the left side shows a purl stitch. Knit 1 more stitch. Place the yarn underneath and back through the loop. Knit a stitch. Then bind off 1 stitch. The 2 stitches on the left are perfectly 1 knit stitch, and 1 purl stitch, corresponding to the opposite stitch technique. Meaning you always knit the stitch pattern opposite to the left side texture. Pay attention to always move the right needle to adjust the yarn tail position. When purling, the yarn is on top. When knitting, the yarn is underneath. Swap the positions of the 2 loops on the left needle downward. The knit stitch loop is in front. Move both loops to the right needle. Then insert the left needle from behind to pick up the first loop. Pick up the second loop with the right needle. Transfer it back to the left needle. After swapping positions, continue knitting the opposite stitch and bind off. Repeat this process downward until you finish the entire round. After completing the last stitch, stretch the loop. Leave a 10 cm yarn tail, and cut the yarn. Then thread the yarn tail through the loop. Finally, weave in the ends. If there's a large gap on the left side, you can sew a few stitches. Weave in the yarn tails along the texture. That completes the binding off explanation. That finishes the collar explanation. Finally, learn about decorations. They consist of stems and segments. Both are embroidered. Let's start with embroidering the stems. Embroider at the very top of the pattern. First, embroider the vertical segments, then embroider the horizontal segments. The vertical segments are above the pattern. Start embroidering downward around the third row. Embroider down to approximately the fourth row position. After finishing, embroider the horizontal segments. It roughly covers 3 to 4 stitches. There's no specific embroidery method for stems. When embroidering, just stagger the segments. No need to embroider in straight lines. You can also embroider according to your own preference. Now let me demonstrate the embroidery method. Here I'll demonstrate using a sample swatch. Take the corresponding color yarn, insert the yarn needle. First secure the yarn tail on the wrong side at the corresponding position. Then pull out the needle to embroider the vertical segments. Note: stagger the segments. After finishing the vertical segments, then embroider the horizontal segments. After finishing, tie a knot and weave in the ends on the wrong side. This completes the stem embroidery. Next, embroider segments on one side of the neckline. Sleeve openings and hem positions. The embroidery method here is identical. As you can see, both the hem and neckline follow the 2x2 ribbing texture. At the neckline and hem positions, embroider approximately half of the way. For the sleeve openings, embroider only on the front side. The other side of the sleeve openings doesn't need embroidery. You can refer to the finished product for details, or embroider at corresponding positions according to your preference. Now let's demonstrate the embroidery method. I'll demonstrate the method at the hem position here. First, secure the yarn tail on the wrong side, then pull out the needle and embroider alternately, creating angled segments to the left and right. You can pull out the needle at the 3rd/4th row, from the bottom of the hem. Then insert the hook next to the stitch above. Insert the hook at the position where you just pulled out the needle. Continue embroidering using this method. The specific embroidery method here can also be adjusted according to your preference. After finishing, tie a knot and weave in the ends on the wrong side. Next, follow the same method to embroider all the segments at the neckline and sleeve openings. That's all for the segments. Up to this point, the decoration part is complete. This sweater has now been fully explained. If you have any unclear parts during the crochet process, don't hesitate to join our Facebook group to get supports. Susan's family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.